There has to be radical change. And we've done it before. My colleague Lynn Pierce showed me this book cover, a moment in a truly radical mobility transformation. The automobility system we know today is little more than 100 years old. Only 7 generations ago, in 1898, delegates from across the globe gathered in New York for the world's first international urban planning conference. And one topic dominated the discussion. Don't know if you can guess. Horse manure. Horse manure. If you look at the picture at the bottom there were horses everywhere. And in 1894, the Times of London estimated that by 1950, the city's street would be buried 9 feet deep in horse manure. A public health and sanitation crisis of unimaginable dimensions. And no solution could be conceived. The horse had been the dominant mode of transportation for thousands of years. What to do? And we know what happened. A mobility transformation where whole ways of horse-centered life changed completely. New land use, employment, education, food, and consumption patterns evolved, all around the individually owned internal combustion engine car, taking us into the existential planetary crisis that we're in, and pictures like that are familiar to all of us. Looking back, the transformation of that historical horsepower-based mobility system started with maximum diversification, Lynn found in her analysis. And looking at visions of future mobility now, we see similar levels of maximum diversification. We've got walking, biking, cargo bikes, delivery drones in the air and on the ground, rail, autonomous vehicles. You see an autonomous vehicle right behind the cyclist on the right there, for example. And scenarios of future mobility are blooming. And many of you here will have thought deeply about mobility futures. Some of you have worked on making these and other important scenarios that you see here in the Cumbria Transport Infrastructure Plan, Transport for the North, Sustrans, Innovate UK, the Youth Climate Summit, ZCCP. That's a fantastic body of knowledge and imagination that we have in the room today here. And Zero Carbon Cumbria asked my colleagues and me to help them imagine what mobility futures look like in Cumbria 2037. And here in Cumbria, you need to reduce residential transport emissions by 79%. 79%. We had that discussion, and everybody went, impossible. And yeah, in very broad brush strokes, we made 6 different mobility futures for a future Cumbria where remote places flourish with more jobs in tourism, land management, green energy, where local plant-based food doesn't have to travel far and visitors come car-free to experience a shining example of low-carbon connectivity, where it's easy to leave the car behind. And we had really rich discussions in these groups, and it mapped out 5 or 6 different kinds of futures. The first one, mobility as utility or commons, recognizes that mobility is an essential human value. In the words of one of the youth leaders, mobility gives us a sense of freedom and connection that we wouldn't be able to have otherwise. It's about education, jobs, culture, nature, friends, family, a diverse big world. The Mobility Commons scenario foresees multimodal mobilities paid for with a monthly subscription like water or energy. And rethinking mobility in that way will make it more precious, more equal, and more low carbon, maybe, in part through demand reduction. The second high-tech scenario puts all eggs in the basket of decarbonized energy. We'll move just as much as we do now, and in similar patterns, but with autonomous electric vehicles, using batteries powered from wind, solar, nuclear, hydrogen, the automation also reduces congestion, is the idea here. The third scenario sees a radical change in mobility culture. We seriously fall out of love with the car. Life becomes much more local. We walk, cycle, grow our food locally, work online, and connect online. And in all the optimism, we also discovered quite significant disagreement and inequalities. And one of the scenarios is one where we can't find ways to deal with them constructively. A divided Cumbria in a divided world might end up with people left behind and literally stuck, immobilized in poverty, while elites still drive and fly and drown their stress in consumption and delivered goods. And 5, we are now likely to experience more and more disrupted mobilities as extreme weather increases under 1.8 to 2.4, 2.7, or even higher warming, which will shape mobility futures. And many of you will remember Storm Desmond in 2015 and how broken bridges and flooding marooned the country. So adaptation has to be part of our future scenarios. And finally, our futures might not be one of these scenarios, but all of them mixed together. And things could get pretty horribly wrong with resource wars, surveillance, and automation hell that makes humans redundant, where inhumane ethical algorithms operate life, and pollution, destruction, and loss of civility and compassion reign. We can't know how it's going to go, but the future is not some distant land. It is now. And what we do now will shape these futures. And we can discuss what we think is preferable and try to find ways of making that happen. And that's what we want to do today. And let's express our hopes and fears. This is a visualization from the Our Future Towns project. And I think we've got Cyril online today, and he might be able to feed some insights from this brilliant project into our discussions. It shows how powerful it can be to imagine with our hearts as well as our minds. What futures do we want? What social and natural worlds? In many discussions about net zero mobility futures, people say, oh, but society isn't ready for that. People will never get rid of their car. They won't use public transport. They'll naturally enact the world that you see at the bottom there. I don't think so. We need the system. We need to see the system, the mobility system, and imagine new mobility systems. Here, the car is still there. Here, it's gone. We have to ask, how ready are our mobility innovations for systemic societal change? How easy does what we envisage make it for people to change their mobility patterns? How can we change the mobility system to make it easier for people to connect and be mobile in different ways? How much better could people's lives be? What can we do to help these aspirations and systems for better mobile lives? And Tim, if I could hand over to you.
Sure. Good morning, room, and good morning, Zoom. Great to be here today. Thank you very much, Monika and the team for organising today. I'm Tim Gale. I'm the Zero Carbon Cumbria Partnership Manager. That's our new website at the bottom. So please visit that for more information. In this short introduction session, I won't talk too much about the partnership, but I will do after coffee. So Monika set the scene there really well, I think. I wanted to highlight the fact that we've got such an amazing group of people with so much expertise, both on Zoom and in the room, and beyond that, with all of our networks. I think that's massively advantageous for us, but it's also really challenging. But I think it's a good challenge, and I don't think we should be concerned that we might come from different perspectives and motivations and all have different ideas. I think that's a really good thing, and I think today should be about exploring that with each other and looking to collaborate on some of those good ideas that we're bound to have. I tend to come at things from the left here, I think, too much. I sort of think, right, we've got a journey, where are we going to go with this? What are the things we need to do to get there, and the pathways and the direction, and probably get a bit lost because I see it from this kind of start to finish point of view. But maybe today we could think about working back the other way, and Monika's been fantastic working with the Zero Carbon Cumbria Transport Group in making us think about, so where is it we want to be? And I think we need to do that today. What's the place we need to be to get on our net zero by 2037 ambitious pathway? Not necessarily saying we should wear pajamas or whatever this guy's wearing on his bike, but maybe try and ride back the other way and see it from the destination perspective. So if we can do that today, I think that will be really helpful for us to sort of build that from where we think the future should be, how that should look, from all sorts of perspectives, from an infrastructure point of view, from a social point of view, and to really realise those co-benefits of working differently. So yeah, the destination backwards rather than maybe the journey forwards. I think from the work we've done through the partnership, it's been very apparent that none of this is necessarily very easy, and I'm sure you've all found this too in everything that you do. But it doesn't mean that we can't get there. And I think this kind of spaghetti in amongst all of our collective thoughts and our brains, it is definitely a tangle, but maybe today working differently. I'm very happy because there's lots of toys on the table, so I'll be playing with those and maybe trying to think, well, how do we unlock that spaghetti? How do we get through? What is it that we need to do in working together a bit differently, perhaps? And then we've got to try and be this cat maybe today and just hang in there with all of this, because as Monika says, it is difficult, it is complex, but I'm sure there'll be some solutions in amongst all of this. So what are those things we can hook onto about understanding what the travel and mobility future for Cumbria should look like? So therefore, maybe asking ourselves some sort of questions, those kind of anchor points for the day about what we can do differently, what does a decarbonised future look like, and how we communicate those co-benefits amongst us in all the different areas and disciplines and people that we work with. So yeah, I'll try and be that cat if I can today. And finally, just very quickly from the group that Monika supported and still is with the partnership, really interesting lines that have come out of that group, and I've just selected one of many and talk a bit more about them, as I say, after coffee. But we're used to having our past that's been built around the car, but what is it that we might think about in terms of building our future around? What's that going to be? What are those key things that we're going to hang that low carbon transport future on? So I'll tell you some more about the partnership after our first break. Now I'm going to hand over to Liz.
Hi, thanks very much, Tim. Hi, good morning, everyone. It's really great to be here this morning, and I can assure you that you're in for an absolutely enjoyable day. I've had the privilege of working with Monika and the team around DecarboN8 for 3 to 4 years now, since I've been at Lancaster. So I can absolutely assure you that you're going to come away with a whole new perception following the day. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about some support that's available, and it's predominantly for businesses, so really SMEs, but if you're a large organisation and you think you might get some benefit, come and talk to us, because we might be able to find a way that we can work with you, particularly if you perhaps are working with some other companies in your supply chain. So some of you might be aware, but it could be new to a lot of you. There's a project that's been running in Cumbria now, funded by ERDF, the very last tranche of European Regional Development funding that came through the Cumbria LEP, and it's called CUSP. which is the Cumbria Innovation Platform. And that is quite a broad remit, really, and it's enabled us to engage over 2 cycles of funding now with a lot of Cumbrian SMEs who have come and had benefit from working with dedicated staff at the university, both Lancaster University, and we have a partnership with Cumbria University as well, to actually explore what their innovation challenges are, whether that's around management, business studies, we've got the physical sciences, we've got engineering. And uniquely in this round of funding, and I should say we are on the very last knockings, as it were, of ERDF now, so really we've only got until next March to get the final companies engaged, whilst we still have the money to do something with them. What's unique about this time is we've got a work package or a module in there called Connected Cumbria. And I think that complements really well some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, a lot of the work that Monika and the group have already done looking at mobility futures in Cumbria, but also wider how that links into connectivity more generally. So the Transport Systems Catapult have this view of 3 pillars of connectivity. So there's the digital side of connectivity, there's very much the social side, which is something I know Monika's dear to her heart, and also the physical side. So that might be conventionally what we think about transportation, mobility, the car, multimodal transport, all of those things. But then looking at how those 3 pillars of connectivity actually interact with each other. So you might have unintended consequences. So if you move to digital connectivity and everybody's, working from home or having their medical appointments online or whatever it might be, do you then create problems somewhere else in the system, either in the social connectivity with people feeling disconnected and lonely, or in, in physical connectivity terms as well? So we've been fortunate enough to employ some really great analysts to work with companies. So we've got NASA, who's here today, who's been working on the social and the social design side. We also have Sabir as well, who looks at the digital. I'm not sure Sabir's here today, but she's also looking at the digital side. And we also can lock into expertise in our management school to look at the more physical side. So might be something like last mile logistics, or first mile logistics, algorithm planning, route planning, car sharing, planning best routes. So if you're a business, SME, or even a larger organisation that thinks you might want to come and benefit from this very last bit of ERDF funding that we have at the university, to look at some of your connectivity challenges of business, to get one-on-one support with our dedicated academics and our analyst staff as well, then please do come and talk to us. We still have got capacity to take new businesses onto the scheme, and there still is time to work your way through the process right through to the end. I think March is when we'll take our last businesses, depending on how much we've got. So come and talk to us.
So good morning and thanks so much for having us. My name is Laura Evans-Hill and my colleague Chris Redford at the back here. We're from Nifty Fox and we are your live scribes for the next 2 days actually. So our job is to take all of your incredible ideas and turn them into visual stories. And this is so that we can remember what we've said, commit to action, and actually kind of use this scenario-based approach to understand what we do next. So you'll see on the screen behind us here, that's where you'll be able to see everything we're doing live as we do it. So we're in the trenches with you. And we're going to be sharing our kind of reports, I guess, our visual reports with you at various points throughout the day. So I'd encourage you to come and chat to us, to come and illustrate with us if you want to get kind of dirty with a pencil, if you like. And also, this is a co-produced thing. So this is what we're doing together to build something that we can actually take away from our event and do something with. And you'll see there's a QR code on at the back there. Sorry, I'm making you look in 15 different places, and online, I'm sorry, I'm making you look in different places. It's behind me. Oh my God, it's behind you. So there is a QR code here. So if you scan that, you can download these images live as we do them to your phone, and please do feel free to share them on Twitter, tagging obviously hashtag Cumbria 2037 and us at Nifty Fox. And there is a little bit of science behind why we're doing this. It isn't just about having a pretty picture at the end. There are 3 core reasons why visual storytelling is so helpful in this particular situation. The first is that visuals are fast to process. So we process a visual in 13 milliseconds versus 6 seconds for a sentence of text. So I'm so sorry that the wonderful notes you'll be making today will take you much longer to process than some of our visuals will. The second is that visuals are memorable. So you are 65% more likely to remember a visual that you've seen 3 days later than the same information presented to you as a page of text. So this is about sticking in your heads and making sure that we go away and do something with the time that we've spent together today. And finally, stories, visual stories, light up the emotional processing part of our brain, and we need that part of our brain to be driven to action. So not only are we more engaged, but we're also more likely to do something with the information that we have. So that's why Chris and I are here. Please come and see us. Please remember to go and download the images there, and we can't wait to spend the next couple of days with you. Thank you.